Hey there, and welcome to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Nick Roger. Big week in golf on a lot of different reasons. Very young winner on the LPGA Tour, the U.S. Am champ. Nick Dunlap becomes the only other player besides Tiger now to win both the U.S. Junior and the U.S. Am. Tough decision for him. I mean, I know he's just completed his freshman year going into his sophomore year, but and even with PGA Tour U looming his senior year, what do you think? Do you think we might see Nick Dunlap make the jump after this unbelievable summer he had?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't see why he wouldn't. However, I mean, the money's so good now in college. I mean, you never know. You can stay in college and still make a good living, if you will, and get college paid for. So there's definitely going to be a big choice for him, big decision to make. I mean, it's unprecedented what he's done, well, with the exception of Tiger. And that's always like unprecedented, right? So at the end of the day, I think for him, he's confident, he's playing well. Do you take that chance, really, is the question. Do you take the chance?
Yeah.
And, you know, he's solid. He's confident. I mean, why not?
Yeah, we will get more into that and everything else in golf in just a little bit. But we want to welcome in our guest, Monifa Sealy, playing on the Epson Tour. Welcome, Monifa. Thanks so much for joining the Hub of Junior Golf.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. Hi, Roger. How are you
Hi,
guys?
Monifa. Thanks for joining.
No problem.
So let's just start a little bit with your journey to the United States, your journey with this great game of golf, how you got started and how you made it all the way to the professional level. Give our listeners and viewers a little bit of a history lesson of Monifa Sealy, please.
Okay. So I came originally from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, for those of you who don't know. And I guess I started off, our parents, they used to go on vacation a lot, and we ended up at a lot of country clubs outside waiting for them while, you know, the parents were inside drinking, having their time. And we just tried playing golf. And if I'm being honest, it was not my favorite thing. It was too hard. I was kicking up a lot of dirt. And then as time went by, like my brothers and cousins, they started getting a lot better than I was. And so I wanted to win, just being competitive, because I did swimming, I did, you know, cricket, all the other sports. And I had just decided I wanted to win. And in my country, we actually had a pretty good junior program where every year we had a national team and we would go compete against the other islands on a different island each year. And that was also something that I wanted to be part of. So I started playing a lot more. I qualified for the team. And then when my parents and I guess the coaches in Trinidad saw my potential, we started coming to America to play events over Christmas and during the summer. And that was the first time my parents noticed. I think we went to like the Jim McLean Golf School down in Miami after playing Doral. And then it was like, okay, they're getting better. And then I went to David Ledbetter in the Army for 2 weeks summer camp, kept getting better. And then eventually they took the jump. And when I was 15, I came to IMG Golf Academy. So I was there for a year and a half. And I guess I wasn't improving fast enough. And my parents decided to send me to the Gary Gilchrist Golf Academy in Howey in the Hills, Florida. That's when I think my game took off. I played in all of the JRGAs, the FCWTs, all those junior golf tournaments. And then I was recruited by quite a lot of colleges, and I got a full scholarship to play at the University of Central Florida. I went there and I studied criminal justice and pre-law for the 4 years. I think I played every tournament except for 2 of them due to like injury. And then I graduated and decided that I wanted to play professionally. So I went to Q school that year in 2015, and I've been on the Epson tour. And I think the furthest I've been is to the 3rd stage, trying to qualify for LPGA. So that's my story. Yes.
That's a pretty good story, Monifa.
Thank you.
There's probably a lot of things in between there that you can tell us about your experiences. So tell us about, you know, being a young female, being a female of color as well. I think you know, kind of resonates, or maybe doesn't resonate with some of our audience, but maybe we want it to, right? At the end of the day, tell us were there any obstacles getting in your way that may not have been part of the other girls that you had participated with?
I would say yes. Well, obviously, first of all, coming from the Caribbean, that was something I wouldn't say that it was scary, but it was coming to a whole new country and trusting that we were investing in the right places and that those people were willing to help me. I can remember playing golf. There was probably 7 of us that I know I could rattle off the 7 girls' names. I didn't get to see a lot of girls that looked like me. So it was a little bit intimidating, but I would say that for the most part, that I was lucky in meeting like a lot of really great people who did want to help me. And then there was like, coming to America, I would say in Trinidad, everyone looks like me, right? So coming here, it was very different to see. There would be times when we would have racism, things like happen to us. You go to hotels, restaurants, they tell us in 2018, I remember my brother and I on tour went to a restaurant and they told us we couldn't eat there. I've been in college showing up, my coach sent me in to get yardage books and they refused to give it to me because they don't believe that I'm on the golf team. They tell me that, the spectators aren't allowed until the weekend. I mean, I have been through a few things, but at the end of the day, my thing is I have my eyes set on my goal and I'm not going to let somebody who wants to be a hater deter me from where I want to go. And I think that the best thing that happened for me was that like my parents, they knew what the goal was and what they wanted to do was like, where is the best happening and where can these people and where will I get it? And like, just what do we have to do to achieve the goal? Like, yes, there's going to be things in the way, bumps in the road for everyone. But like at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, who's going to give us the support that we need and surrounding myself with like the best team and the best people. And I was really fortunate enough that they were smart enough to recognize that and that we met great people along the way. Yeah, so the help is out there. I just want people to know that it might not come from people that like look like you, but if that's where the best is at, that's where you got to go. If you want to be good at doing tech, you got to go out to Silicon Valley, right? If you want to become a great pasta maker, you got to go to Italy and learn that over there. So I feel as though it's like, don't be deterred just because you haven't seen someone like you doing it. Just pave the way. And I just really hope that I can be someone that if kids have questions and families like want to know stuff, I will be so happy to like share that knowledge with them because I feel like that made me a sustainable golfer. And I just have like so much knowledge to share now with all the experiences that I've had.
That is
that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really incredible. The things you've overcome and even just the moving to play this game and living in a lot of different places. What would you say as a young teenager? Obviously, you got good fast,
Mm-hmm.
but what would you say was the toughest obstacle of golf that you had to get over before you really said to yourself, I can do this, I can play at the highest level?
I think I would say like the lack of like a role model. Honestly, like Serena Williams is probably like my favorite athlete. But obviously she plays tennis, right? So I had never really seen someone that looks like me achieve, obviously Tiger Woods, but female perspective to see that that's done. And I thought like, Tiger, that was different. Like he grew up in California and like he was American and they would accept him. And I thought like, wow, like I'm a woman, I'm Black and I'm not even from this place. So I think that just really, do people really want to help me? Like, do they have my best interest? Like, you're a little bit worried. But I would say like seeing the results and just like knowing that people would come in to check on me to see where I am, they were rooting for me, asking how can they help, like that definitely helped like to build trust and to really make me know that I could do it,
Yeah, that's great. Monifa, I know you're here in Louisville at the 3rd annual African American Golf Expo, and some of these things come up, and obviously there are challenges that players of color do face that are different than obviously other players. And we just heard, and we were just talking about player development and access and accessibility to quality coaching. how did you know that you were getting that? Or how did you know that, like, hey, you know, I'm coming to America, and you landed at Gilchrist, or you landed at IMG, and you know, what were the things that you were looking for? So maybe talking to the audience and saying you're looking for coaching or looking for an environment. What was that? What made you think that was the right environment for you?
Honestly, the results of people who had been through there. So you see, okay, like there's when we were playing junior tournaments and parents would say, oh yeah, my kid's in golf school, or they go to golf camp here. And I'm like, oh, well, this kid's shooting 4 under par. My dad's like, okay, give me the number of the people where you did that. Like, who taught your son or your daughter how to do this? You know, so I would say it was definitely from looking at the top of like where I wanted to be, and then realizing where I was and how am I gonna get there. And I know definitely financial, like I'm definitely fortunate, but we did get help from our government, friends. Like my parents definitely made huge sacrifices. It's definitely not impossible. If you want it, there's people out there that are willing to help, but I think you just have to know where to ask, like you said. Like, so I would see and I don't know, we just did like a lot of research online. Like it was just like best golf teacher, best golf academies, kids who were playing at the top, like, you know, a lot of which I think is great, that sports will write people's stories. So you would hear about families who were moving from this place to do this. So it wasn't just us that was doing it, you know? So I think that was probably it for me.
Yeah, Ryan, actually, I'm going to turn this to you, actually, just a second here. I'm going to flip the page here. Yeah. Ryan, you and Notah Begay have done something incredibly special in the golf industry. You guys saw something, as Monifa just was talking about, the you know, how to be more inclusive, right? I mean, you really have flipped the script here, if you will, in what you and Notah are doing with your, you know, NB3 championship. And now kind of maybe expanding that a little bit. Talk a little bit about where did that come for you? Well, how did that get to you, and why did you kind of do this?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, Notah, a 4-time winner on the PGA Tour, a Native American that, you know, grew up on a reservation, even though he made it to the top and you know, went to Stanford and ultimately made it to tour. He certainly understands that unfortunately, the game of golf forever has been, it's an expensive sport, and, you know, you can almost buy your way to the top as far as if you have enough money, you can play in enough events. And with the current ranking system, if you can get there and you can pay for it, you can improve your ranking. So it was important for us to kind of get away from a ranking system or your past performance dictates if you can play or not, or if you can play in the big events. And we just kind of went to a straight open qualifier where I don't care how great you are. You know, Nick Dunlap, who we started the show with, just won the U.S. Am. He won the U.S. Junior. I mean, Nick had to go to a local qualifier in Memphis, Tennessee, and he had to beat the kids at the local level before he got to go to the next level, before he went to our national championship, which he ultimately lost in a playoff before he went on to win the U.S. Junior and the U.S. Am. But there you're taking, you know, someone that if we had a ranking system would have just been able to move right to the championship like so many other places in golf do, where we just believe that it's the true open format. We have found a lot of diamonds in the rough. We have found a lot of players like Monifa that, you know, were good enough, but maybe just hadn't been playing in the right events at the right spot at the right time where they were able to get seen and noticed. And with this policy, if you play good enough, you keep advancing, you get to play in the national championship, which is, you know, televised on Golf Channel, where certainly coaches and, you know, not now with NIL, there are just opportunities that await. And we just wanted to get rid of of your resume dictating how far you were able to play and let your game do it. So thank you for that, Roger. But certainly I think, you know, Monifa is a true testament of that. You know, came from a place with a 0 ranking, right? Came from the Caribbean without a big resume of junior golf. And as you said, you dug it out in the dirt. The game wasn't always kind to you, but you just you were competitive and you kept getting better and better. Monifa, give me that moment where you finished a tournament or a practice round, or the moment where you were alone, where you said to yourself, I can do this. I belong here. I'm good enough to play this game. You remember, was there a moment where it hit you?
Yeah, it just came to my mind. Honestly, when I won my first AJGA, I would say so. Like for a period of time, I think I was probably 16 at that time or 17. I had been playing like on the other smaller tours and winning like there and doing great. But every time I played in an AJGA, like I couldn't break 80. And I remember my coach being like, "Why do you think?" He's just like, it's just another set of letters, AJGA, FC. He's like, it's just a golf tournament, And I was like, yeah, but these girls, they're like just so much better than me. And he was just like, why? You've shot those scores like millions of times. Like, you just need to go out there and do that. And like, I remember on the second to last day, like we were heading over there, and like I just started like pretending that I was like holding up the trophy, and I was like, you can do it. And I went out there and I shot. I think I birdied the last 4 holes for a 68 and won the tournament. Yeah. And that too, like a big thing was that I always used to finish really poorly on my last couple holes because like I didn't like to eat on the course, like because I was too nervous and like focused, and I believed that like when I ate, I started making bogeys, right? So I was just like, all right, like today you're gonna finish strong, and like it doesn't matter if I win or lose. And I just visualized it and happened, and I was like, okay, you can do this. And like after that, like I think I won like 3 or 4 more tournaments, and then like the college offers started coming in, and people were like sending emails like and mails coming in. So that was really huge for me. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story, Monifa. I don't even know if you've ever shared that with me.
No,
So
I don't think I've ever told anyone. Actually.
That's really cool to hear. So as you started working on your game, what were some of the things like, to pay attention to? Did you have a strategy to swing technique? Did you have a strategy for a mental technique? As we talk about at GPC a lot, those are all skill sets to develop, so to reach the level you've reached, you've obviously had to have something there. What did you do to kind of prepare your mental strategies, if you will, for the next level play?
I would say the biggest thing that helped my mental game was knowing myself, learning why I did what I did, why I thought how I thought, explain like my emotions on the golf course. Like I'm a very personable person, and like I want to do great and like make my parents proud and everyone proud around me. And I feel like I had to learn to let that go and want it for myself, right? So that was like my first place. And then I don't really show a lot of emotion on the golf course, but I would hold in everything, and then I would start judging myself harshly, and that would lead to like more 3-putts, like playing bad, but not because of my ability, but because I mentally was like beating myself down on the course. So when I think I did like the disc profile, and I learned that like the reason of why I do those things, then it became self-awareness on the course. So my thing went from like the result based to how did I feel? So how confident was I in that decision? How calm was I over that shot? Like, was that a good choice? And I think when I started breaking that down and like scoring myself, so like after every shot, I would rate it 1 to 10 on like how good that was. And so like I started to notice on days when I was at like 65%, I didn't play well because I wasn't committing to the shots. It had nothing necessarily to do with my ability to hit the golf ball. Like there was just no commitment. And like when my commitment was high, when I was calm, I was shooting under par, right? So I was just like, okay, wow. So I think that self-awareness definitely was like the biggest thing in my mental development for golf. And every tournament I would go to, after looking at the golf course and doing like my visualization at night, I would say, okay, like, how do I feel about this golf course? Like, am I prepared? Like, what do I want to achieve tomorrow? And like taking those small goals of not results based, but on process, I would say, is what really like changed and elevated my game. Yeah.
I wanna follow up on that, because it is amazing to me how many junior players I speak to that say that, they are playing for a parent more than even themselves, and they don't want to let their mom and dad down. They've put so much into this. They care so much. They're so happy when I play well. I don't want to let them down. The fact you were able to get over that is not a lot of people were able to do that. It didn't mean you loved your parents any less, but how were you able to move away from thinking about letting them down as opposed to you just playing for yourself?
I think it was in my head, right? So I would think personally, so my parents are amazing. Like, they love me. I don't have the aggressive, like, super angry parents. They're always proud of me. But I created that in my own head, right? So just like, I remember I had a talk with my my mental coach, and he was like, fair. People create that in their minds, right? So he used to tell me, every time you get scared on the golf course, like, hold on to something and drop it and release it like it doesn't even exist, right? So I started thinking of that with, like, my parents. I'm like, okay, Monifa, like, what's going to happen if you make a bogey here? Like, right. It's a double bogey. They're still gonna love you. They're still gonna take you to dinner. My mom is still gonna get my clothes ready for tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, like, one day, I think I just kind of, like, asked her, and she said the only time we would ever be upset is, like, if you give up on the golf course. And I remember, like, one time I did, and we got done, and the only time, like, my parents were ever angry at me, and they were just like, we know that you quit on yourselves today, and, like, that's just not what you do, And
right.
When I feel like we had that conversation, I was like, oh, wow. So it doesn't really matter what they think. Like, I'm just going to do what I want to do and the goals that I want to achieve. And that's basically, like, how I came away from that. And I think that it is something that, especially in the Black and brown community, I feel like therapy and, like, things like that are, like, taboo and people don't talk about it. And maybe even for athletes, they don't think that mental golf is that important. But I really, really believe that was what gave me, like, my breakthrough, knowing myself, and then, like, having conversations, trying to be open and realizing, like, what the situation is. So some of these parents, I think they're a little bit tough on their kids, or kids think that their parents are expecting more than what they really do. And it just could start with a conversation.
Well, the crazy thing about junior golf, Roger, and I'll bring you in on this, is like, literally, there's going to be another tournament in the next few weeks. And literally, that tournament you just played will never even really be mentioned again. Like, it is amazing to me, the pressure the families and the players put on themselves when you really break it down and think, okay, they're 11.
Well, Ryan, think, as you say that, think about how many quizzes you take in school that you forget about 30 seconds after you walk out of the classroom, right? Yeah. And no one brings that up. No one ever talks about how, that quiz that you just bombed because you weren't paying attention in class.
Right.
They don't talk about that. But yet in sport, and in most, specifically golf, it's brought up time after time after time by the parent, not so much by the athlete. The athlete's kind of going, I'm moved on. I got another thing to get ready for. But the parent's going, yeah, but you did this so poorly. Do this. So, yeah, yes, there are, next steps, next events, by the gazillion, right? But at the same time, it's the parent that kind of harbors around that failure, which creates, as Monifa was talking about, creates that feeling of, oh my God, I got to judge myself because my parents are judging me. And so I think that is tough, as much as we want to say, yeah, we can forget about it. At 11 years old, they can't, right? It's something happened, something bad happened, versus, hey, what'd you learn this week? Hey, what'd you learn from that event to move on and let's get ready for the next event? Because it's nothing more than just another quiz, right? So, Monifa, I want to go back, and you were talking about that. And as you matured, obviously, and you came through that gap of, hey, my parents aren't judging me, my parents only love me and support me. Now that you're actually on the other side of this, talking to parents occasionally, as you speak for us at events and so forth to parents, you hear some of that. What are some of the things? What's a message that you can tell the parents now, the audience that you're talking to now, is like, what could you tell them? Maybe some things not to say, maybe what to say.
Yeah. I would say encouragement. Like you just said, like a lot of times, like I've seen so many parents, like they get off the golf course and it's like, oh, well, this didn't go well and this didn't go well and you need to go to the range and you have to do this. And like, I feel as though, again, like my example was, all right, let's get something to eat, especially if it didn't go well. Like, and now sit down, or even if you don't want to do that, and we're going to just breeze it out for a little bit, get over what happened, what went wrong. And then, all right, so what do you need from us? They just used to ask me that, like, do you need to hit balls? Do you need to go home and just like forget about today and we're going to start fresh tomorrow? I feel like they did really great at just like, there was never, the berating, because I know I didn't do well. The kids obviously already know that they didn't do well. So my mom was like, oh, well, you had a lot of really good drives today. The putting was good today. They would always start off by telling me like things that I did well. And so also from like the academy, I learned to do like the plus minus plus system, where I would write like the things that I did great, the things that didn't go well, and then end off with something positive so that you can like take that into tomorrow. Because, it's obviously easy to remember, oh, that triple bogey. But I would say to parents, like, always offer encouragement, like encourage the kids. They know it was difficult, it didn't go great, and just like be their number one supporter. I really think, like, I really honestly believe in positive reinforcement, because if you made 8 birdies and your mom, you get in the car and she's like, oh, well, if you hadn't made those 5 bogeys, you would have shot this. And like, that's not helpful. Today was my lowest round I've ever shot. Like, let's celebrate that,
Yeah.
So I think that it's a little bit of, you get greedy when you see things going great, but I really want parents to like encourage their kids, because a lot of the time they'll even like come up to me and say, oh, well, she just bogeyed the last hole, and I'm like, oh, well, she just stuck it to 3 feet for birdie. Hey, like, that's nice. So I would say that, like, just encourage your kids. They're trying. No one's out there trying to make a bogey. Encourage them.
Junior golf, college golf, professional golf, where did you have more fun?
I would say, probably junior golf.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, no, because we really, everything was free, first of all. we got so much free stuff. It was great. I don't remember, maybe we were paying for it, but I think that being around a lot of kids that we had like this, especially playing for my country and going to different places, like the World Amateur events, like I got to travel to South Africa, to Argentina, to Canada. Like I played and I got like a lot of exposure. So I think that that was probably like my most fun time. And I actually really enjoyed summer amateur golf. I would say like playing in all those like the really big events, USGA events. That was also very fun to me. Yeah. Professionally now it's like, crap, I missed a putt for $300.
And you had to pay for the entry fee.
Yeah, that too. Like, we have plastic tees and there's no snacks out here. What happened to the free bowls and towels and like,
Yeah, that's Ryan. That's what you guys do well at the NB3. You guys give away so much stuff. You want to be there.
Yeah, the Epson tour needs better tea gifts, Roger.
Yeah. I know. It's definitely fun too, being a professional. I think, like being around a bunch of girls that have the same goals as you. But I definitely had the most fun when I was, I say like junior and amateur golf.
What's the dream now? What's next?
Honestly, I thought that I was going to go to law school. But I thought that I wanted to get involved in golf, like after I had already lived like a full life. I've always wanted to like mentor kids, even if it's not just golf, but in sports, and like helping them know that this is what they have to do to achieve greatness. The path that I was on, I think that not a lot of people that look like me knows that it even exists. And if I could be some sort of aid in doing that, and, like working with Roger here at GPC and just trying to find kids who need that opportunity is, I just started doing it in April, and I feel like forget law school. I want to do this.
Here.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's really cool. One of the things I was, as you were talking earlier, Monifa, about playing and coming back and doing the plus minus plus kind of after action report of your tournament. And I think one of the things parents may have to understand possibly is the difference between what skills their kids really have and the expectation that they have as well. And we call that the skill challenge ratio gap, right?
Yeah.
Where the parents have this expectation their kids have better skills than they do, but yet the players themselves realize the gap, right? They realize that they're not as good as mom and dad are making me out to be. So that also creates a lot of stress on the player to come back and go, I got to play better than I'm actually skilled for, which then creates a whole different dynamic mentally for the young player. And that causes some conflict between the mom and dad, right? Or mom and dad and the junior golfer. Right? And so as you started talking about that, that started, kind of sinking in that, we hear that from parents quite often. It's like, well, they should have done this, or they should have made, to your point, you know what? And you made bogey in the last hole, but you stuck at the 2 feet and made birdie. That's not good enough anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
like, oh, wow, you made 2 bogeys. Like, okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know that we're trying to, talk to players about and parents about is the player development assessment, or the index. Mm-hmm. Understanding the skills when you go out to a tournament or where your skills are is so valuable to hopefully eliminate some of that friction or that gap, that exists there. And I know that's something we talk about quite often.
Yes. No, I feel like it definitely recognizing like where you are is huge. Because like, so for me, like I said, like I stayed playing in like today's HJGT and FCWT tournaments until I was ready, and that I knew, okay, well, to win AJGAs, you have to shoot on the park consistently. Like you need to be shooting closer to between 74 and 69. And I wasn't doing that. So like you said, like, why would my parents put me in an event like that when it was that like you said, you would get completely crushed, and now you're just like, oh, I'm not good enough, right? So it wasn't that they waited until I was only shooting those scores, but that I was getting closer and I was brushing shoulders and playing with those girls who were that good, so I could see and observe that. And they was like, hey, I know the expectation was set. This is a stretch. We're just coming to this event. The main goal is for you to do this and try to work on this. No pressure. Right? Like that made me feel so much better than like, oh, you're expected to win.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I mean, we've had this discussion multiple times, right? I mean, where parents come up and they talk to you about, well, my kid has to play in this event and they have to play in an AJGA event and they have to finish in the top 5 to get, hey, I need to be fully exempt on the AJGA or my rankings are going to drop. And so therefore, I'm not going to get recognized. I mean, that pressure alone is crushing for a junior athlete who may or may not know where their skills are.
Yeah, I mean, that conversation, listen, unless you're Tiger, I mean, there really is probably always someone out there that is just better than you at that moment in time, whether you're 11, 12, 13, 20, 25, 30, 35 years old. Like there's always someone, especially on any given day. I mean, you look like what Justin Thomas is going through, where shot 80 in consecutive majors. Like that mental part of golf is hard and I'm getting my butt kicked. So, I mean, I think it's important that, one, golf isn't, if you're the best football player on the team, there's a good chance that the next time you play, you're going to be the best football player on the team. Golf, you can win a tournament, and this is the PGA Tour or LPGA Tour. You can win a tournament on Sunday and 5 days later miss a cut on Friday against the same people. I mean, it just is. It's why it's the most difficult sport, the most demanding sport out there. So, I think reality and perspective, Monifa, is so important. Like, just because you did have a bad day doesn't mean you are a bad player. It means that golf got you that day, and it gets everybody. Everybody that's ever played the game has had a bad day. I mean, that's just the reality. But for a kid or a parent that doesn't play golf, that has made this investment in their child to play golf, it's difficult for them to understand that sometimes golf is just golf, and it's really hard.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll never forget the one time. So like I was, like you said, I was going through like a rough patch of where it was like I went from like winning to just like 77, 79 every single tournament. And like that was when I was really upset. And my parents were like the first time ever like disappointed in me for giving up on the course. And my mom typed up this thing of Tiger Woods. I think it was like the top 10 males and top 10 females, like worst golf tournaments. Like you said, like went from a win that week to then she was like, look at this. Who do you think you are? Like
Yeah.
she was like, if Tiger Woods is doing it, if Serena Williams wins US Open and went to the next event and she got knocked out in the first round, who do you think you are? And I was like, oh, thank you for humbling me. And then like but it honestly, like I know that's not what it was, but it was to help me to see that like you're not always gonna be great. And it really relaxed me. And I think that the tension of trying so hard was just like, okay, like take your time, just figure out why, and then go back to the drawing board and then like come out stronger again. So I just feel like they did a lot of like the really good things to mentally help me throughout my career.
Last thing, Monifa, for all the parents and kids watching and listening, your message to them as they begin this climb that you've already gone through of junior golf and through college golf all the way to the professional ranks. What is your message to them as they are either beginning or in the middle of this journey that is junior golf? The highs and lows that they undoubtedly will experience, the fun that will be out there for them. What would your message to them be?
Mainly have patience. Take your time and do like your due diligence and figuring out like the correct path for your child. Not what somebody else is doing is necessarily good for them. And so really like talk to each other and figure out like a plan together as a family, not just mom and dad thinks this is right, especially when you get to a certain age. And I would also say to just always positive reinforcement and encouragement, because at the end of the day, like you're still mom and dad to us and we want to know that we're making you proud. So definitely backing your kids up, being there for them and showing them that like no matter what, at the end of the day, like, mom and dad will still love you because golf is hard.
Yeah.
And just like I would say seek help in the right places if you can, and reaching out to other people to find out what's going on is a really good idea. You're not in this alone. Like there's lots of families that are doing the exact same thing, and we might look different, but at the end of the day we want the same things. So yeah, that's it.
Well, Monifa, it's been wonderful having you on. It's been wonderful hearing your story. It is an inspiration to so many, especially those that they don't feel like they necessarily fit in the same box as every other player out there. So you're an inspiration. Thank you for what your message was, and best of luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thanks, Roger.
Thanks, Monifa. We'll see you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Pretty incredible stuff, Roger. And that's what this podcast does, right? This podcast brings you a different perspective. This week, it brought you into the mind of a player that arrived from a different country, not looking like anyone else that was playing golf. And the hurdles, and boy, I think she did it every step of the way with a smile. And I mean, her smile is a $1 zillion smile. You can see why she was successful.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's such fun thing to be around her on a daily basis, positive energy and her thought processes of having to deal with so many different things and learning from those at such an early age, a young age. It just brings us such a good perspective to things, right? And, that message to the parents, I hope they hear that. I mean, it was more, I think it should resonate as a parent. For me, it resonates for sure of like, wow, am I actually giving the right messages to my kids enough? And hopefully I am. And, as Michael is part of the producer here, or the producer, hopefully, Michael, you get that. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to be around her on a daily basis.
And another thing that really hit me was, if you're playing in California today and the weather is absolutely perfect, and your player goes out and shoots X, and then there's a player that is supposedly better than your player that is in Vermont today, where it's blowing 40 miles an hour and it's different conditions, and you're going to compare your player to that player, and they beat they beat so-and-so. Well, no, they didn't. They didn't.
Right.
They had a better score on that day on a completely different golf course. And it brings us back to PDI in that I thought your message was important, that you really do need to have an understanding of what your expectations should be. And apples to apples is the ultimate way to do that. And certainly PDI gives you a baseline score of one, not only shows how you improve, but also shows you what other people are doing in the exact same test. And how important is that, Roger? And ultimately, was that one of your goals when developing PDI?
I'll say first and foremost, yes, that was the biggest goal, because I think to your example, it's so hard for players to understand like where they really are, right? And because of in the competitive space, so many kids want to go to college, and they get this barrier of, hey, I don't get recognized because I may be in Vermont playing in really difficult conditions, and I may be in Florida or California playing under perfect conditions. And yes, they're going to look like they're better players potentially because of their score, and because of, guess what? More people are going to go to those easier, better conditions. I won't say easier, but better conditions, and it's going to look better, right? So all of a sudden, when these players have the affordability or can go to these locations and play and look better on paper, doesn't necessarily mean they're better. So I just thought it was unfair in our development of young players to say, well, let's judge everyone based on a score versus let's judge them based on their mental skills, their golf skills, their physical skills, and who has the basis to develop to be the better player, or and give them an opportunity if they had the same opportunity to play in the same conditions. So yeah, that was a big reason why I wanted to create the player development system and index, because then a college coach or a talent identification coach could say, wow, I recognize that these players really, from a skill perspective, from an athletics perspective, are very similar, but put them in the same conditions. I may have one that's going to show up more often just because they have, a deeper skill set, right? Or a broader skill set, maybe even on the mental side, that they weren't exposed to mental coaching or mental skills assessment before, right? So yeah, that's a big reason.
Yeah. And once again, we encourage you to head over to the JuniorGolfHub.com and start to utilize the tools that are available to you. You are not in this alone. Every guest we'll have on here, whether it's the highest level college coach at Stanford, or whether it's a junior player or someone on the Epson Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour, the PGA Tour, or a past winner, none of them are able to do it alone, especially if you as a parent are starting this journey. Just go to the JuniorGolfHub.com and see everything that's there for you, because all those questions you have been answered before and have been asked before. And the reality is those answers are just a click away from you ultimately getting the answers to those questions you have. Let's touch, Roger, before we get out of here real quick, on the week of golf. We were talking about Dunlap. Pretty amazing to watch a junior golfer that you and I both watched playing as a junior, that is just out of his freshman year of college, that is now the winner of both the U.S. Junior and the USM. He'll be in all the majors, including the Masters. It's wild to watch that player progress. I'll tell you, the first thing I remember when I saw him was the speed. And we've had so many coaches talk about that, but a baseball player, a high-end baseball player, when he was young playing multiple sports, you could tell when he hit the ball that it just did sound a little bit different. And obviously that's carried over to his amateur career. And even when he played the U.S. Open, he led the field in driving distance. Now, he missed the cut, but it gave you an idea against the Rahms and Schefflers that he was hitting it further. Needed to hit it straighter, but obviously that's something that can't really be taught.
It can't be necessarily taught. Speed can't be taught, right? It's something, it can be improved or developed better. But I heard a talk that he gave I think it was a month or so ago at a club down in Pinehurst, and he was talking about his experiences of other sports and baseball in particular. Obviously, having played baseball at a pretty high level as a junior, and how much that helped him develop those things without really focusing on, because I know there's a lot of things going on right now with speed sticks and
Right.
different, physical development of speed. But he was just talking about his other athleticism or his other things that he did, sports that he played, really was a big part of how he, gained that speed. And he just took it or transitioned that into golf, which I think, if the audience is listening to that, I mean, there's something to learn from that, right? I mean, don't stop playing. Don't specialize early because you think that you're going to go do speed swings and become this great long hitter and athlete. It doesn't work that way. Really, develop your athleticism in playing other sports and really getting in a good training program that helps you be a better athlete, meaning, what kind of function you have, what kind of, flexibility you have, and how your neurological system is developed along the way is so important. And that stimulus from other sports was key.
And probably the best part about that, and this goes back to PDI and it goes back to talking about playing other sports, but when you're playing another sport that is actually training those muscles for golf, you're not thinking about, swinging the speed sticks isn't the most exciting thing in the world. It may work, but playing on a baseball team where you have to bat and you're trying to hit the ball as hard as you can or throw the ball as hard as you can because that's what that sport requires, that is actually, or tennis. You see it. I see it all the time where someone comes off the tennis court after serving a bunch of times and they pick up the driver. I see the swing speeds, Roger, sometimes 8-9 miles an hour from just serving hard.
Yeah.
Because it gets those muscles going faster than they normally do. So there are a million different ways. The root of this message is, though, especially for the young kids, even if they're showing a ton of talent, trust me, you will not get passed up. You might not win every tournament, but allowing your kid to play a team sport or another sport to break the monotony of an individual sport that is often played in, hot summers, that it's a great respite for them.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, even Mark of last week, talking from Penn State, was talking about, just that whole, athletic development part of it and how he looks at skill development and, as an athlete, growing and developing, how important that is. And he knows that resonates long term into maybe acquiring skill better, acquiring speed better, those kind of things. So just really important.
Yeah. Last couple things, getting back to the hub, because kids are going back to school now. Tournaments have massively are winding down in junior golf because especially at the 9th grade to 12th grade level, and also weather, other sports, weather, school. There's a lot of factors of why events are slowing down. One of the favorite things the hub does is really give you an idea of where tournaments are. You don't have to get on an airplane and necessarily go to play an event. There could be one in your backyard on a tour that maybe you never heard of, but it's an opportunity to put a pencil on a card. Tell us again about how we're able to use the hub to our advantage on just simple things like planning your schedule this fall.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, just logging on to the juniorgolfhub.com is really important. Going there, creating a profile, listing or looking at the tournament suite. You can actually just type in a tournament, type in an area, type in whatever you want regarding tournaments, and it should pop up in your area, give you something to play for, and it can be local, right? I mean, very, very important that you don't have to travel, especially with the time crunches now within school.
And Monifa said that, Roger. I mean, Tigers, Earl Woods was very outspoken about win something before you try to move to the next level. And I'm telling you, very few follow that policy. But why go get on an airplane and play in a quote unquote bigger event if you're finishing 5th or 4th, which is, by the way, really good. Congratulations. But why not stay locally, drive 20 minutes from your house, be able to sleep in your own bed. Once you start winning consistently, then okay, I'm all for it. But it doesn't have to always be as expensive and as intrusive into your life. I mean, do you agree you should win locally before you go to the next level?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, that's a big thing that we talk about in the Essentials Guide there, right on the hub, is we talk about the level 1, level 2, level 3 events. Win locally, go regionally, and then go internationally or go into invitationals. But earn that right, and you'll go there with better skill sets, better mindset, better growth in your development versus going there, again, back to your point of, hey, I go get on an airplane, I get in this event because some parent told my parent to get in this event because your rankings go up versus playing in this event and your rankings go down. Trust me, college coaches look at kids who learn how to win. Do they know how to win? Do they know how to finish off a tournament? That only comes when you do that. If you have never done that, go learn how to do that locally. Go learn how to do that regionally, and then go learn how to do that as Nick Dunlop has done at the junior and the amateur level. I mean, that's what he's done really, really well.
Yeah. No, that is wonderful advice, Roger. Absolutely. We absolutely love it, and thank everyone at the Junior Golf Hub for what they're doing for the junior golf community. It absolutely is a roadmap to navigate what can be a challenging journey. So thank you, Roger, for availing everyone this information that they don't have to go high and far to try to find it. It's all available at one spot. So on behalf of junior golf families, we can't thank you enough for putting that all in one spot, and encourage everyone to obviously go check it out. So to Monifa Sealy, great interview. She's awesome, Roger. I mean, that is someone you can root for. That smile was, you can see she's absolutely loves the game, which we always talk about is so incredibly important. If you're not loving the game, maybe try something else, because if you're not loving it, it becomes a job, and no one wants to do that. So for Roger, Nick, I'm Ryan Burr. This has been episode 21 of the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. We'll see you same time, same place next week. For Michael Nick, our producer and director, we appreciate everything he does to get us on the air every week. Until next time, so long, everybody.